So for those that don't know, and just quickly to mention, special thanks to the Society for Psychical Research's Survival Committee and to the Spiritualists National Union for their kind support in this initiative. So the Spiritualists National Union is a religious charity that supports spiritualist churches all across the United Kingdom. I think they're responsible for about 350 or so churches across the UK. So they are the overseeing body of the Spiritualist National Union Church. And one aspect of their remit is involved in the training of spiritualist healers, the training of spirit mediums. They have public speakers, teachers, and as an organised religion, obviously they have ministers and regular sermons and things as well. Now, special thanks here must go to the current president of the Spiritualist National Union, who has been very instrumental in moving this project forward and cooperating with members of the SPR and us to allow us to do what it is that we've been currently doing. And we've been doing a lot, although at this moment in time it's been about building bridges between those two communities. So this really began back in May 2006 when Chris Roe and Elizabeth Roxburgh attended a Mediumship, Spirit, Awareness and Developing Your Potential week at Stansted Hall. Liz had recently started her PhD investigating mediumship, and she was invited along with Professor Roe to attend as a participant observer. This led to discussions with a prominent member of the Spiritualist National Union community, Minister Graham Hewitt. And since that time, we have been involved in a number of initiatives. As you can see, I'm not going to go through all of these, but we have been doing quite a number of things, really beginning again after that initial meeting in 2013 and running through to up to the present day, where we've been doing a number of sessions, residential courses, and other initiatives talking to the Spiritualist National Union community about the scientific method and about scientific research and what our motivations are in terms of understanding their experiences and potentially helping them understand their own. So where we've been doing this work is at the Arthur Findlay College. The Arthur Findlay College is also known as Stansted Hall. It was built in 1871. The college was founded there in 1964, bequeathed to the Spiritualist National Union in accordance with Arthur Findlay's wishes. The college building and grounds are administered by the Spiritualist National Union, and it's a site where they run week-long or fortnight-long residential courses with a draw of many, many, many thousands of people, really, coming from all over the world who are interested in spiritualism. Now, these may be practicing mediums. They may be people that just have a general interest in spiritualism and want to find out more. They run developmental courses for people who are trying to develop their capacity to become an effective medium, whether it be mental, physical, trance. They do healing and a number of other initiatives. And really, in terms of their experience, it can range from entirely inexperienced students right the way through to mediums that have been practicing for 30 or 40 years. Now, at this site, the Spiritualist National Union, after a number of these initiatives and working closely with them, have given us a space. The space is not, sadly, inside this glorious building, but it is in one of the outhouses known as Bruton House. And with joint funding from the SNU and the SPR, we have been provided this attic space in Bruton House on the Stansted Hall site to be turned into a laboratory space which can be used to work with the students, the tutors, and other members of the SNU community. This has been a long and arduous task. It's taken us quite a few years. I wish I'd managed to get a couple of the photos of what it looked like when we started. It was just this fairly destroyed storehouse. And what we've been able to do is effectively turn this space into a working area for conducting research. So this area in the center here is about 30 feet long or so, and we've turned it into a space where we can have qualitative studies, interviews, discussions with members of the SNU. And then at either end, we have isolated laboratory areas which we've been using for a number of different things. We have a wet room, psychophysiology equipment there. We've not quite finished. We're in the process of soundproofing the labs, but soon we anticipate that this area will be ready for moving forward with research. The lab, we intend to provide the opportunity for researchers to gain access to this unique sample of trained SNU mediums. And the SNU, this is a very significant point, this isn't something that we are precious about and we want to hold just to members of Northampton University, but we are hoping that the lab space will be available for any researchers interested in conducting research on mediumship with members of the SNU. The SNU have agreed that they will allow researchers to present proposals to them, which they would consider, and if they consider the proposal to be genuine and sincere, then they will be open for researchers to come in and to use this space, working with their community. What we've been doing with the laboratory space so far is really using the lab to run workshops for mediums, trainee mediums and more experienced ones, to introduce them to the scientific method so they can maybe more critically reflect on their own experiences and also get an understanding of the motivation of scientists researching mediumship and why we need to have the necessary controls and safeguards in place when we're conducting studies with this population. I think one of the really interesting things that I've found from working there thus far is that many of the more experienced members are actually very questioning, skeptical and open-minded about their own experiences. And one of the things that we've been trying to do is to help them use a scientific method to explore their own experience. So there are a number of different methods that we've introduced them to, a number of different things that we've done, and these areas can be used for interviews. So we have conducted some work here, looking at 10 Spiritualist mental mediums award holders from the SNU, 5 male and female participants, and all of these participants were mediums that had gained either a certificate or a diploma awards from the Spiritualists National Union. But I'll kind of fly through this because I'm aware that I'm almost out of time already. We've conducted interviews with these individuals and gained insight into their pathways to mediumship. So one of the main themes from this particular study was that the pathways to spiritualist mediums are embedded in a cultural context that provides an important environment in which mediumship experiences are normalized and validated. So if a child has these, most participants link the onset of their mediumistic experiences to childhood, so anomalous experiences, visions of apparitions or poltergeist activities, and depending on whether the people around them normalize that experience for them or not, seem to have a significant impact on whether they went on to develop as a medium, or whether it knocked them off course and it took them a considerable amount of time to come back to understanding, integrating, and normalizing those experiences. We've also introduced students to standard psychometric measures, which have been associated with mediumistic characteristics in the past, gathering really informal data about their characteristics or measures, such as highly sensitive persons. So 83% of the sample that we've worked with so far there qualify as HSP in comparison to normative data. Transliminality as well, again, we have a kind of 80% score above the average population score for individuals here that are scoring on transliminality. So we've done a lot of this work. This has been ongoing for years. And now finally we are at a position where we feel that we can conduct some formal research with this community. And our intention is to conduct a replication of Delorme et al.'s study, which was conducted, electrocortical activity associated with subjective communication of a deceased, published in Frontiers. So in this particular study, we have at this moment in time only applied to pre-register the study with the KPU. We're currently finalizing that process before we begin this replication. And in Delorme's study, they identified interesting electrocortical activity associated with mediumship success. So in the first study, each experimental participant performed 2 tasks with their eyes closed. In the first task, the participant was given the first name of a deceased individual that members of their family had volunteered forwards and wanted to get a message from. And there were a number of questions that were asked of those mediums about the deceased, and they identified some interesting electrocortical activity comparing successful responses against inaccurate responses. And in the second element of the study, the researchers compared states of consciousness from mediumship communication so there was mediumship communication, fabricated personality, recollection of an individual known to them, and listening to the biography of an individual unknown to them. So this was a comparison of different conscious states. And again, they found some interesting findings, and we're intending to move forward and to replicate this study in the future. Not too bad for me. Thank you very much for your attention.